Ladies and gentlemen, our charisma just went up just a little bit because we are lucky to be oozed by his presence. We are lucky to be graced by him. We are talking about none other than, of course, the great Playboy Prince, Mr. Lance Revera. And he's got a lot to talk about here for us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, the greatest guest we've ever had, the greatest wrestler maybe of all time. He's working on it. We'll find out. Listen, we'll get to it. He knows we love him. So without further ado here on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show and on Sportzwire Radio, the Playboy Prince Lance Revera. And I'll guarantee you that commentator that he's had some issues with cannot do what I did just now. I'm going to go on the record and say that. My friend, happy Friday.
Happy Friday, man. How you doing? You okay?
I'm doing very, very good. I'm doing good. You know why I'm doing good? Because I'm speaking with the Playboy Prince Lance Revera. So that means
I was going to say, it's because I'm here, isn't it?
That's right, because you actually agreed to come on because we had the scenario on Nathan Gunn, and he forgot that he was at a party. So thankfully, we're lucky to have gotten a few minutes from the Playboy Prince, Lance Revera. And that's our pipe bomb here on Sportswire Radio.
Hey,
but
don't worry, I'm at some parties later. Don't worry, I'll make time for you.
And we won't keep you too long because we know you have a lot on your plate, my friend. We have some responses to get to, but most importantly here, we have a match that was just recently announced, literally a few minutes before we went live. And that is going to be from the Kingdom of Wrestling. It is a company we've spoken about here quite a bit on Sportswire Radio. We certainly are very good friends with those who are running that company, so we definitely want to acknowledge them and set the tables for us because May the 28th, it's going to be a busy weekend for you. May the 28th, you're going to be in a match that we're going to talk about here just shortly. May 29th, Wrestle Island World Championship match. But for those who are listening and watching this right now, Friday night on Sportswire Radio and everywhere else, set the tables for us on what we can expect. The Kingdom of Wrestling, you versus Jack Barron.
So it's the semi-final of to crown the king of the kingdom. And it's the first round, it's the semi-finals. It's me versus Jack Barron. Me and Jack have had a bit of a history now. First show, we were a tag team. He cost us the match. I had to show him why I'm number one. Hit him with the lady killer. I just had to teach him where he stands, where he's on the pecking order. So then me, the Stacey Rose teamed up against him and Jenny B. Unfortunately, me and Stacey weren't all successful in that match. But I'm going to set the record straight. When it matters most in this semi-final match, I'm going to go on to the final. I am going to get there. I'm going to get to that match for the crown. I'm going to be in that match for the crown. I am going to be the king of the Kingdom of Wrestling.
Set the tables for us on what this would mean for you in your career. Certainly, the Kingdom of Wrestling, we know, is a newer company. We know it's only been around for a short existence. But I have to imagine here the Playboy Prince, and you are the Playboy Prince, but adding a king to being the prince, I mean, what we call you, I guess, the King Boy Prince Lance Revera. I mean, what we have to change the name. I mean, this would be a pretty big thing for your career. I mean, what would you like us to call you once you win this?
Playboy King.
Okay, good point. You know, I hadn't thought about that. That is an excellent point. So the Playboy King, I mean, listen, we'll just call it the Playboy King Lance Revera. I mean, listen, forget about Prince. King is being bigger than a prince. I mean, so certainly for your career, this would be another big milestone, no?
Well, of course it would be, because by the time we get to the final and I get crowned as king, I'm already going to be Wrestle Island champion. So we're talking dual championships here.
Certainly, you're almost going to have that problem of carrying gold. I mean, you're going to have to figure out which. So you sure that's okay? So you sure that's not going to be an issue in terms of figuring out which one is which, and airplanes, luggage, and security? That's not going to be a problem then.
It's fine. I'll have people to carry it for me.
That's right, because if you're a king, If you're a king, the Playboy King Lance Revera, you'll have right servants and all those people that they'll do all the work for you. Because when you're a king, that's what do you have? Peasants and what was it we learned in history class? It was like the peasants and the monarchs. I mean, I wasn't good at that stuff clearly, so I'm trying to figure out. You would have like a whole like underling, whereas as a prince, yes, you're great, but as a king, I mean, you've got to pretty much have everybody at your beck and call almost.
Exactly. To be fair, in the circles I run, it's probably more likely to be groupies more than peasants. Like, we'll give them some kind of
I would think
better than peasants, isn't it?
Well, I would think the Playboy King Lance Revera, because we're going to clear the Playboy King Lance Revera, because you're obviously going to win this thing. I would almost have to think you have the problems what, let's say, the likes of, I don't know, Def Leppard had in the 80s or the Beatles in the 60s, where you must have like tons of groupies. I mean, we always joke with the scenario of Nathan Gunn that he knows the ladies, but you probably have like, listen, when you're wrestling in a match, I mean, I don't want to compare this to like Def Leppard and those bands of yesterday, but you probably have like women under the ring waiting for you after you're done with the match. You must have groupies pretty much left and right there, my friend.
Hey man, you said it, not me. I'm not incriminating myself. You said it, not me.
Listen,
you know what
and
I mean?
don't listen. We know in last week's show and the prior episode before that we certainly wanted to watch that in terms of incrimination. But I will say to sort of quote Jay-Z, you definitely have 99 problems, but let's just say so-and-so's isn't one of them. So certainly you definitely have your list of friends. Let's just put it that way. Certainly your friends here, to say the least. And obviously a very, very busy weekend there for you. And I almost have to ask you, because the Kingdom of Wrestling here is definitely one of those companies that we've spoken about here. What is it like being in that company so far?
It's been great. It's been a great experience. It's good to be in more promotions, and it's good to be getting opportunities like this to further my career and become a champion somewhere else as well.
No question about that. And obviously, we have a very good feeling that you are going to do that here, as we are live once again on Sportswire Radio, speaking all things related, of course, to the Playboy Prince Lance Revera. And of course, Lance Revera, again, he's one of our favorites. He's quickly become the favorite. He is the guy. Listen, I mean, we know, you know the point. You let us do the intro. We are going to give you a pretty good plug, which I guarantee you, in some other wrestling companies, they're not giving you the plug here. But while we certainly know that Lance Revera is with us, if you want to get in touch and follow the Playboy soon-to-be King Lance Revera, you definitely want to do that on Instagram and Twitter at Lance_Revera. Also like his Facebook page, because I can assure you he's going to be holding a lot of gold in the near and distant future. In fact, he's going to have so much gold, ladies and gentlemen. Forget about Roman Reigns and talking about him being unified as all those championships with SmackDown and Raw and the Bloodline. Listen, the Playboy soon-to-be King Lance Revera is going to have more gold than anybody out there. Listen, forget about Kenny Omega last year when he had, I don't know, like 17 World Championship belts. The Playboy soon-to-be King Lance Revera is going to have several of them, in addition to being the king of Kingdom of Wrestling. So we are definitely looking forward to all that. Make sure you follow him on all those great pages. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. Speaking of gold here, the soon-to-be Playboy King Lance Revera, we understand next weekend, you are going to be holding some gold in the near and distant future here with phenomenally elite wrestling with your tag team partner, Chocolate Thunder, and those tag team championships are coming home back to you. So certainly set the tables for us next weekend on what we can expect.
Well, exactly. Me and Chocolate Thunder, we've come together. We've created this super group. We've looked each other dead in the eyes and we've said, we know what we want, and we want the PEW, the Phenomenal Elite Wrestling Tag Team Championships. With that, we may have some special guests who may have some tricks up our sleeve going into next week.
Don't tell us those guests. Don't incriminate yourself. That's the theme we've been using the last 3 weeks.
Hey, I'm not incriminating myself, but we may have some special guests. We may have somebody at ringside with us. You never know. You never know what you can expect when it comes to Lance Revera, and especially with Chocolate Thunder by my side.
So talk about Chocolate Thunder as a tag team partner, because we haven't got a chance to speak about Chocolate Thunder here on Sportswire Radio. Talk to me about what it's like tag teaming with Chocolate Thunder, unlike some other people that you sort of mentioned at the top here. But set the tables for us on what we can expect with Chocolate Thunder.
Well, this is me and Chocolate Thunder's first time teaming together. So you never know what you can expect from us. But we've come together, we've looked each other dead in the eyes, and we've gone, do you know what? It's time to get this super group together. We're me and him are cut from the
Good.
same cloth. We both like the outlandish. We both like the colour pink. I tell you that much.
Okay.
We're both out there. We're both ready for this. We're ready to take that step up. And do you know what? Phenomenal Elite Wrestling is exactly the place to take that step up. And it is time. It is time to put some gold around my waist. It's time to put gold around Chocolate Thunder's waist. It is time to take that step up, and it is time to become a 3-time tag team champion.
And we can't wait for that. And I'm also noticing today, because I was looking back on last week's show, and I noticed we already have a gold watch on. So we are getting ready for gold.
That one. We are.
Yes, exactly. So clearly we know that you are, listen, forget about the Ric Flair drip that everybody talks about. It's soon going to be the Lance Revera drip, because Lance Revera is going to have gold. He's going to have, like I said, he's going to have so much gold. I mean, he's got, I guess, gold hair, blonde hair. He's got the watch. I mean, he's going to have so much gold, ladies and gentlemen, that they're going to have to name gold instead of gold Lance Revera. You're going to be having Lance Revera you're wearing, Lance Revera championships. You're going to be the Lance Revera this, the Lance Revera that. I mean, but also talk to me for those that haven't got a chance and are hearing for the first time on Phenomenally Elite Wrestling in what that company is like.
It's a new start company with Phenomenal Elite Wrestling. This will be their third show.
Okay.
It's going from great heights already. You've got some great talent on there.
Well, you're in the company, so it's obviously great talent, right? You're in the company.
Well, exactly. I'm there. Martin Kirby's there. Chris Ridgway was there on the last show. Got Harley Hudson on there as well. Got a number of great talents, obviously, and it's only just getting better and better.
Let me ask you a question on Chris Ridgway, because he's come up so many times on this show and for obvious reasons. And he started out actually in a company that we will get to in a few minutes in KOW, which I know you know a little bit about. But talk to me about Chris Ridgway and what you learn from him, because this is a guy that's as accomplished as really anybody from our scene in terms of international success and wrestling all over the world against some pretty top tier opponents. I mean, what do you learn from him maybe outside the ring?
Well, he's a fantastic talent. He's head and shoulders above a lot of people out there at the moment. He obviously with him traveling all over the world, he is a fantastic talent, and being able to learn from him as well at Future Shock where I train, it is great. I'm being in the ring with him at Phenomenal Elite Wrestling last month. Well, at the beginning of the month, sorry.
Right.
It was fantastic. Like it is a very big learning experience because of how talented he is.
Some of the things that he's accomplished, I know that you're going to accomplish sooner than later. Do you ever talk with him about, let's say, maybe like the experiences of traveling internationally? Because, you know, traveling internationally is obviously certainly different than, let's say, wrestling all across our scene here in the Northwest in the UK. But do you ever maybe pick his brain about maybe some of those experiences in wrestling in places like Japan, as an example?
It isn't something I've had a chance to do yet, but obviously it'll be something I'll want to talk to him about it going forward in the future. With that, I will obviously always talk to my other coach as well, Sam Bailey. He has a lot of experience in that that realm of getting out there, doing more. Obviously, got more experience than I have, so obviously getting to learn from both of them is great.
Do you feel it's important, as for those who are watching and listening to this and obviously getting to know you, but we'll get into some of the other stuff here in a few minutes again, but do you feel it's almost important that maybe you try to pick different veteran wrestlers' brains? Because we speak with different athletes in different sports and different things, and I always ask that question, whether it's to like a Major League Baseball player, whether it's to a football player around the world, or anybody else. Even when we have politicians come on, I always like to ask them and say, well, do you feel it's important to try to pick, let's say, veteran wrestlers' brains to maybe get to, let's say, the positions that they're in? I mean, is that something you try to do subconsciously almost?
Yeah, no, it's extremely important to pick everyone's brains. It's a thing for life. More people who've got different life experiences to you, people who are further along in their journey, especially in wrestling. It's something that you've got to do, and it's the only way to get better is to learn from people who have more experience than you do.
Absolutely. And I know, again, these are things that you're definitely going to do. And of course, if you like what you hear from the soon to be Playboy King, Lance Revera, I want everybody to call him the soon to be Playboy King, Lance Revera. Follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Lance_Revera, because I can promise you that he's going to definitely be holding so much gold. They're going to call it Lance Revera rather than gold itself. And certainly he's got more than that Ric Flair drip, although it was kind of weird. I saw something on Instagram the other day that Ric Flair was like dancing in a bar, and it was like he was trying, and it was almost like he was trying to be what Lance Rivera is, but unfortunately, he's like 73. So Ric Flair, unfortunately, doesn't have that same charisma that he used to have. But I want to ask you this question before I get into Mr. Brian Adenson, and I'm sure you're certainly chomping at the bit because you might have heard some things that were said out there on Tuesday's live show with him, and certainly more of that we'll get into in a second. But I'm curious, when you wrestle as a tag team wrestler, you've been a champion as a tag team, and you've also been a singles main event guy. Do you feel that in terms of wrestling tag versus singles, going into next week's match, obviously a Phenomenal Elite Wrestling with Chocolate Thunder, that it's a different approach? I mean, walk me through maybe the differences of being a tag wrestler versus singles guy.
Well, it is a big difference because you've got somebody else to rely on when you're in there, and obviously on the other side of that, you've got to have eyes in the back of your head for who else is in there as well. There's four of you. It's a big difference. Well, for a lot of people, it's a big learning curve. But obviously, since I say I'm a two-time tag team champion, it is something that I can fall back on. It's something that I'm used to. It's something that I'm used to being around. So at this point, it is just a case of going back to my old bag of tricks and looking into where I can go with this.
And I got a feeling that the next month for the soon-to-be Playboy King, Lance Revera, is going to be the biggest month yet. Because, listen, next weekend...
It's my birthday as well.
When is your birthday? We got to do a happy birthday wish for. When is it?
14th of May.
All right, so 14th May is when KOW Redemption's on. So we're going to make sure the 13th of May, we're going to wish you happy birthday.
But I'm not at KOW on the 14th of May. I'm at Britannia Wrestling.
I'm aware of that. We're aware that the 14th, you're not going to be there, but we do know that we'll make sure the 13th to do a nice happy birthday rendition. We'll make sure that we'll definitely do something live. We'll make sure to wish you a happy birthday. We'll definitely make sure it's one of the better happy birthdays, yes. And certainly we won't make you feel like The Rock did when Mankind and him did that segment on Monday Night Raw. And it was This Is Your Life. We'll certainly try to do at least a better rendition of some of those things. But I actually do want to get into KOW because you definitely stole my thunder, literally, because I'm sure you might have heard that this past Tuesday that there was somebody that you were in the ring with a few different occasions, and his name is the Ronin, Brian Adenson. Certainly you and him certainly have quite a checkered past, I might want to say, and I understand that there was maybe somebody that was a fan of yours or some type of individual that at least might be familiar with your ring work. So maybe, just maybe, right? So I understand that this individual was certainly talking you up a bit. And the Ronin Brian Adenson certainly had his feelings, and he certainly aired some of them. So I'm going to give you the opportunity now, the soon-to-be Playboy King, Lance Revera. Is there anything you'd like to say to the Ronin Brian Adenson? Because something tells me that he's going to find out about this, and he's going to be watching this somewhere right now.
I'm sure he's watching right now. I'm sure he's looking upon me with my full head of hair. Hi, Baldy. I hope he's sat at home right now watching me say that. But I saw him talking. I saw him say he'd happily get back in the ring with Lance Revera, and I'd happily get back in the ring with Brian Adenson. So given half the chance, I'll kick his bald ass again.
Do you think that the Ronin Brian Adenson would want a match with you at this point? Or maybe that whole bald-headed thing might be something that, maybe having him, I don't know, how can I put this, maybe reserve judgment a little bit.
Hey, he's a great talent. He always gives me a great match. But will Brian ever want to get in the ring with Lance Revera again? Have I got him scared? I don't know. Last time we got in a ring together, I came out the victor.
And certainly that's a theme here, because last time we had, obviously, a show live, we spoke with Brian and somebody you've been in the ring with, also the natural born fighter, RP Davis, also holds a victory over the Ronin Brian Adenson. It seems like right now the Ronin Brian Adenson is fixated on the natural born fighter RP Davis and some other things. So maybe he's not so much focused on you, and that's advantage for you because clearly the Ronin Brian Adenson is kind of fixated on whether boxing punches are legal or not in professional wrestling. I mean, I'm not a referee or a person in KOW, so I couldn't quite say what the rule book is on that.
Hey, I'm a busy man at the moment. Anyway, we've both got our own little things going on. We're far apart from each other at the moment. We've both got our own lives going on. But when the time comes around again, because obviously life works in cycles, everything comes back eventually. And when we meet again, I'm sure it's going to be a real meeting of the minds between me and Baldinho.
Now, what was your impressions of some of that? Because it seemed like at first, Mr. Adenson was certainly very upset about some of the things in KOW. Now, I'm not going to ask you about the match that he had with the natural born fighter RP Davis, but certainly it seemed like it was a different tone that Mr. Adenson had. I mean, do you feel like, in a sense, almost that? Sorry about that. We're being disrupted here by somebody. So when it came to unfortunately that's what happens when you do these things. You have people in the stream and you're trying
technical difficulties.
Kind of, pretty much, yeah. So let me ask you this question then. When it came to maybe some of the surmises that Mr. Adenson had, would that be the way you would have gone about things in terms of getting what you wanted? I mean, what were your thoughts on that? Because it certainly seemed like that. How can I quote the Justin Timberlake "Cry Me a River"? It almost did seem like at times that Mr. Adenson was a little bit, I guess, upset. I mean, was that the way you have went about it?
Hey, all fair in love and war, and he got exactly what he wanted, and he's moving on up. He's got exactly what he wanted out of it, and more potentially if he has to face Rick Marcus and he goes for the heavyweight title. So potentially, Brian could have got everything he wanted and more. So it doesn't matter how you get there; it's about getting there.
So in a sense, maybe you admire how Brian went about that. Is that fair to say?
Hey, man, if KOW management are in the chat right now, I'm open for a heavyweight title match as well. I'm becoming a bit of a title collector at the moment myself. So what's better than to give me another opportunity? Oh my God, it's Kurt! It's Kurt! Kurt's in the chat! Yes!
Would you like me to read out Mr. Kurt Johansson's comment? Would you like me to? I mean, I don't have to read off that individual's name he's quoting, but would you like me to certainly?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So I hear that so-and-so, because I'm not going to say his name on here, thinks he can beat the soon-to-be Playboy King Lance Revera in the ring. Sort of, I guess that's a funny emoji, and then with the sunglasses. I mean, so any thoughts to that?
Hey, people who have to sit there and talk the loudest and say they can beat somebody up without any without any experience or any proof of what they can do is usually the one who falls flat on their face. It's usually the guy sat at the back who doesn't have to say much, who's the one to be worried about. But name redacted can talk all he likes.
Let me ask you a question. What'd you think about that individual, so-and-so? We're not going to say his name on here, but that individual, he was posting some, I guess it was training montage pictures. It almost looked like. It looked like he's been, I guess, working out in the gym a little bit. I mean, you had any impressions on that? Does that maybe give you any thoughts or any concerns? Walk me through that.
Hey, we all go to the gym. We all like to take a good picture in the mirror afterwards.
Do you think they were Photoshop pictures by any chance?
Hey, you said it, not me.
That's right.
If this individual wants to go through his phone, edit some pictures to put it on his Instagram, to make himself look cool before he goes out and does a little bit of deck scratching in the night, hey, that's up to him. I'm not one to judge. I've been told to keep my hands off this till a judgment has been made. But you know,
good point.
If he wants to sit there, do a little bit of editing in his spare time, that's completely up to him. Maybe though, he could start editing some of my pictures for me. Do you know what I mean? Like just putting some nice little montages together of his favorite wrestler.
I'm gonna come in and say something here, and certainly I'm gonna get to Kurt first because Kurt obviously he knows more about this. So here's what Kurt has to say. Kurt says, "I think you should come sit on commentary with us sometime." Now, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, and Kurt can double check me on this if he wants. In June, we have an event coming up called Mutiny, right, for Odyssey Pro Wrestling. Is that correct? Now, to be fair, there is a point that Kurt makes, and obviously Kurt knows this stuff maybe a little more than we do here, certainly on Sportswire Radio. I mean, do you think maybe there could be room for a third chair and certainly for a soon-to-be Playboy King to be on the call? Or walk me through your thoughts on that.
Hey, if Kurt wants to sit between a rock and a soft place, that's absolutely fine. If he wants to, if they want to invite me onto commentary, if they want to sit me there and talk about, well, Odyssey Pro Wrestling, then I'm more than happy to sit on commentary. I think me and Kurt would make a great dynamic duo, and soft lad on the end, he can sit and twiddle his thumbs for a bit.
And you know what? Listen, I'll bet to say that certainly having the soon-to-be Playboy King, Lance Revera, certainly will equal more butts in the seat. Certainly it will equal more dollars for Odyssey Pro Wrestling. And certainly it will equal more attention for Odyssey Pro Wrestling, because Odyssey can use all the help it can get. Because Odyssey Pro Wrestling right now, we have seen all the tension right now. We have seen the problems that wrestlers have had with management, like yourself and others. We have seen that basically Odyssey Pro Wrestling right now, not to say it's like Russia and the Ukraine, but certainly it's a mini Russia and the Ukraine. And I'm saying not the Playboy King, Lance Revera. So these are reasons why also you might want to follow Odyssey Pro Wrestling on Twitter at OPW_UK, Instagram Odyssey Pro Wrestling, also Facebook Odyssey Pro Wrestling, also Powered.tv, Powered for TV, also where you can catch the soon-to-be Playboy King, Lance Revera in action. Also Patreon, Odyssey Pro Wrestling, where you can vote on some things. You know what? I'm going to go on the record and say something here. So let me go on. Let me say something.
You're going on the record.
I'm going to go on the record.
Off the record. It's on the record.
I'm going to have a I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to shoot.
He's shooting. He's shooting from the hip.
I'm going to shoot as the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here, the Reverend Tom Bryce. This is the second time I'm going to do this on a wrestling company, but here's a shoot.
Yosemite Sam. He's shooting from the hip.
This is a shoot that I actually think that Odyssey Pro Wrestling Management is actually going to like, because here's what I want to see on the Patreon Odyssey Pro Wrestling page. Why don't we vote to see if the soon-to-be Playboy King, Lance Revera, should be on commentary in June for Mutiny? I mean, what do you say, everybody? I mean, I know somebody from management's going to hear this. I know that somebody's going to message me and say, you know what, mate, that was a brilliant idea. You know, mate, that was a great thing that you just said. You know what? In fact, I'm not even going to quote the individual and say the person's name, but I was actually told 2 days ago that I was told I could make an excellent mouthpiece for our wrestlers in the UK. So clearly, I think somebody in Odyssey is going to get wind of this. So I'm going to go on the record. So one more time. So before I get to Kurt, let's go on our Patreon page, Odyssey. Let's make something happen here. Do we want to see the soon-to-be Playboy King, Lance Revera, on the call next month with Kurt and a certain individual at Mutiny? So I'm going to go on the record, and we'll make sure we clip it. We'll make sure they hear it on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the Odyssey Pro Wrestling fan group even. I'll definitely make sure that the powers that be get it. And let me get to Kurt, because Kurt obviously is tuned in. And Kurt says, "Oh no, what I have done," and kind of laughing here. Let's do it. Yeah, listen, Kurt, let's do it.
Kurt.
Like I said, we need ratings. We need more butts in the seat. We need more people subscribing to the Patreon page. We need more people going to Powered for TV. Clearly, we need the business, right? So at the end of the day, I think most people that are tuned into this would definitely know that clearly this is a shoot that I don't even think Odyssey Pro Wrestling Management can refuse. And you know what? The soon-to-be Playboy King, Lance Revera, and certainly Kurt, who's on the call, obviously, for Odyssey Pro Wrestling at each and every event. Chris Brooker, right now, he has, what, half of the management decisions in Odyssey? Am I correct?
I believe it is a 50-50 split.
All right, so if he's got a 50-50 split, it's almost like the United States Senate. It's a 50-50 split. So if we got a 50-50 split, that means that Chris Brooker is half the leader, right? So if he's half the leader, so I'm going to go out there. Mr. Brooker, I'm sure you're a very busy man with the spotlight and certainly with the unforgettable Andre Decker, who's no stranger to us, and obviously everybody else in the world, the current new world champion, Ryan Hunter. I'm going to go on the record and say, well, why not? Why not, Mr. Brooker? Why not make it happen?
Why not? Why not indeed? I think it'll be great. It'll be great for the people sat there because they'll get to see my face all night. I'll happily sit on commentary and I will show a certain individual how it's done, how to dress when you sit on commentary, and how to behave. But that's on a certain individual. It could be anyone. It could be anyone I could be talking about. Anyone
All right,
at all.
so those are things, obviously, that I think would be an excellent decision. I think would be a great idea that everybody in Odyssey Pro Wrestling, even the other person that has the 50% of the control of management, I really think couldn't refuse because, again,
I don't know. He could. Ethan, come on, speak up, man. Speak up or forever hold your
what has
peace.
happened? You know, we used to get Ethan Edwards on the shows here in the past, and he used to come on, and I don't know, the last several months, it seems like, I don't know, he's busy, or maybe he's worried about Andre Decker too much, but we haven't had him
Power
on
crazy.
here in a while. You know
He's
what?
gone power crazy.
You know what? Maybe Chris Brooker, Mr. Brooker being 50% in charge of Odyssey, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's going to resolve some things. Maybe that's going to be where we need that because Ethan Edwards, he's lost control currently. Ethan Edwards right now, he's like Boris Johnson. He's just lost control right now. I mean, he's
like taking your dog out for a walk, but the dog ends up walking you.
That's pretty much what it comes down to. And clearly Kurt says here, Ethan, can Lance sit on commentary? Ooh, boy, Kurt just went right for the jugular. Kurt Johansson, he clearly knows what's best for business because he just, ladies and gentlemen, went for the jugular. He literally just said, you know what? Let's do it.
Still going off, innit?
Let's make it happen. I mean, listen, that's what we do here. Listen on Sportswire Radio. This is
It all happens on Sportswire Radio, doesn't it? Everything goes down right here. It's the epicenter of clearly everything going on in British wrestling at the moment.
Oh, listen, I mean, where else are you going to find, listen, where you get matches made? Where else are you going to find wrestlers going back and forth with each other? Where else are you going to find Patreon votes here? And obviously, we have here from Kurt, Ethan is now watching. Give him a recap. Okay.
Oh, hello, Ethan. Hello, dear.
Mr. I guess, co-manager? What do they call that at this point? I guess the half manager?
Co-manager.
So for you, Mr. Edwards, we've gone on the record here, and I've actually gone on the record. So I've gone on the record here, Mr. Co-General Manager, if you want to call that here, that as the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, I would like to see on Odyssey Pro Wrestling's Patreon page for you, Ethan, that we vote on next event for June, Mutiny, Odyssey Pro Wrestling, that we have the soon-to-be Playboy King, Lance Revera, sit on commentary with Kurt Johansson, who's with us, and obviously another individual that is also on commentary for Odyssey Pro Wrestling. So let's say you, Mr. Edwards, would you like to see maybe that is something we could vote on our Patreon page for Odyssey Pro Wrestling? I mean, let's say you.
Come on, Ethan. Say something. Say something or forever hold your peace, and it happens.
We can even put you on the stream, Ethan, if you'd like to share a few minutes with the audience here throughout our social media platforms. I mean, I'll even put you on camera if you'd like to address anything here. I mean, we're going on a limb here, ladies and gentlemen.
11:45 at night.
We don't have much time, trust me. Certainly, I've got a million things in the background. The soon-to-be Playboy King, Lance Revera, is got to get to a party, and he's got to, basically find out and fit more time around. He's a very, very busy man. So, I mean, Ethan, if you don't want to answer, we'll give you another minute or so. But obviously, you can think about that because we'll certainly make sure.
Ethan Watson on here?
We'll certainly make sure it's tagged on all social media accounts for Odyssey Pro Wrestling that they'll hear this. So, if certainly maybe Ethan is undecided, I'm sure Mr. Brooker might have a little bit more of an open heart and open mind, and maybe he would consider that because clearly Mr. Brooker, he's been doing good at making business decisions. Listen, I mean, you got to give Chris Brooker some credit. Despite the way it went down, he found a way to get the world champion, Ryan Hunter, and his group in the spotlight. He found a way to do something. I mean, again, if you don't agree,
where there is a will, there is a way.
And he found it. He certainly found that way, ladies and gentlemen. So at the end of the day, you can't really fault him because he got the job done. He kept his group more stronger than ever. He has the world champion in his group. So you know what? Chris Brooker, like I said, he clearly understands what's best for business. So, I mean, listen, Ethan, if you don't want to respond now, clearly fine by us. We'll definitely make sure that it gets heard out here for sure, to say the least. So, it's your call, Ethan. I mean, we're on the clock here. I mean, literally, you're literally on the clock. We'll give you another minute or so. I mean, I'll even, you know what? I'll even do the count, because remember last week we did the 1, 2, 3, and we counted up to 10. You know what? We're gonna count up to 10 for you, Ethan Edwards. We're gonna do it for you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
We're getting there.
7.
We're close.
8.
Oh, still only 2 more.
9.
Oh, 1 more. 9.5.
10.
There we
Ring
go.
the bell. Ethan Edwards, you clearly don't want to answer. You're clearly not taking on those tough answers, those tough questions that we want here on Sportswire Radio. So we're gonna. You know what? He answered the bell. We got to give it to him. Might have been 11, but here he is. And boy, drum roll, please. A statement regarding the soon-to-be Playboy King, Lance Revera, will be released in the coming days.
Oh, Jesus. What's that going to be? Oh, it better be good. Do you know what I mean?
Now I feel like I'm in a bad spot right now. Now I feel like... Boy, now I'm going to hear from Odyssey. I'm going to hear from Ethan and be like,
You've got me.
Now I'm in trouble. Hopefully, we might need Chris Brooker. We might need Chris Brooker to say, you know what, we can continue to do work with Odyssey. So I might have to be in begging Mr. Brooker.
You've sat here for the past, I don't know, like 10 minutes or so calling out Odyssey management, and I've just sat here as an innocent bystander.
To be fair, you did sit innocently. I went on for the record.
I just offered to be on commentary, and then it turned into it devolved into you calling out Odyssey management for giving them a 10 count. I don't know what's going on.
Last week, I just got
I feel
in
like
trouble
I've been drinking.
with the LWF management. I got in trouble with them. Now I'm getting in trouble.
You got Brian a fucking match, and I get a statement will be released in the coming days.
Well, listen, I thought, you know what? I thought after Brian Aidenson getting a match in another organization, I certainly would have thought that it would have been something here in Odyssey that we would have had something. I mean, I would have thought that we would have.
I thought you would have got me a title match somewhere. I thought someone would have been watching. They'd be like, "Oh, we'll give him a title match." No, there's a statement coming in the coming days. Do you know what? Oh, Christ! My management team have done a good job on this one.
My advice is just don't incriminate yourself. Yes, plead the fifth on everything. It was all me, all my fault. You want to get back to Stacey Rose. Listen, we don't even want to have you speak much longer, because we know that anything you say anywhere at this point could be used against you. So I think the best strategy is that I'm not going to say much more about the soon-to-be Playboy King Lance Revera. I'm not going to say any further anything on Odyssey Pro Wrestling Management, because we certainly don't want to incriminate the soon-to-be Playboy King Lance Revera. So we certainly want to make sure at the end of the day that, listen, lips are sealed. They're zipped, sealed tight. We don't even want nothing more. We want to say nothing. Listen, we don't want to say anything any further, because clearly we don't want to get this individual any more hot water than he is in. So I'm going to just leave it at that. Please. So is there anything before we leave here, because I realize I want to make sure you say anything that's good for you? Is there anything you'd like to plug that's non-controversial? Anything that you'd like to say before we close that you can safely say?
Well, I've got t-shirts available at launchevera12.bigcardsell.com. They're always available. And from looking at that, a statement's coming in the coming days. Instead of Lance, you've got a title match, I may need you to go buy some t-shirts.
I'm going to be going right after we get off the air. I'm going to be going to Lance Revera's website and making sure that we buy that shirt, because we need to support the Playboy King Lance Revera in any way possible at this point, because he might need that support. He might need that help for the legal fund. He very well might potentially need as many shirts possible that we can buy, because there could be a legal fund that could be very, 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 very expensive right now. So we want to make sure that we go out after we're
I'm
done
sure.
here.
I'm sure Stacey Rose has texted me about 15 different times telling me to be quiet.
Well, Stacey Rose,
I'm sure Stacey Rose has texted me about 15 different times to tell me to keep it zipped.
I'm gonna tell Stacey Rose, I apologize. I hope that your client does not get in any further trouble. I'm gonna do my part and buy that shirt. And on top of that, I certainly want to say, if there's anything that we can do, Stacey, please let us know. I want to say I'm a big fan of your work. I'm a big fan of you on social media. I think I follow you on Twitter and Instagram. So I will say before we close, because we don't want Lance Revera to say anything further that could incriminate himself, especially when it comes to other companies like Phenomenal Elite Wrestling, the Kingdom of Wrestling, even KOW, Brian Aidens, who knows what else, but certainly Odyssey Pro Wrestling. Do follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Lance_Revera. That's Twitter and Instagram, Lance_Revera. Also, Facebook, please like and follow his page. Also on there, Lance Revera, Playboy Prince. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. If you like what you hear from us, do follow us on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. And, of course, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our content on sportnarium.com/player. And up next will be a brand new show. It's certainly from myself and the Acid Stephen Cross, talking about his injustice in the LWF, where I do get in some trouble with their management, probably.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. But
Why is there so many? Why? You don't get this much injustice in tennis, do you?
You know what? You don't even get this much injustice in other sports. I mean, to be honest, I don't get it what's going on in professional wrestling right now in our scene. The injustices that I have seen, KOW, you could make that case for Brian Aidens and his injustice, certainly in his mind, right? We certainly saw in the LWF at Slamaganza 3, there was a number of injustices. And then your situation, another injustice, maybe the biggest injustice of maybe since, I don't know, the Montreal screw job. I mean, the injustices in professional wrestling right now, I mean, I can't wrap my head around it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's elections going on around the world, but they dwarf into comparison of the injustices that we've seen from the likes of the Playboy Prince, soon to be Playboy King, Lance Revera. I don't know. At this point,
well,
go ahead.
Matt, but while you mention LWF, I'll tell you what, their stage at their most recent show at what was it, Slamaganza
3. Slamaganza 3.
Slamaganza. Do you know what, in my head I was going to call it Slamageddon? I don't know why, but that sounds like a really cool name. But Slamaganza, the setup for that was unbelievable. With the red carpet and everything, it looked...
Yep. Steve Baby did a good job on Slamaganza 3. He did a good job on it. I have to say.
He did. I saw that.
They did a good job
with
the
just
setup.
Went blank, and I was like, Slamageddon? I don't know. I wanted to call it Slamageddon, but Slamageddon's a proper cool name, and I'm just like my own show.
If I called the Slamageddon, in all seriousness, I would hear it from somebody in the LWF. But if I'm going to
start my own show and call it Slamageddon. I'll be back in like 10 minutes.
We need the Playboy King Lance Revera show. We have to find it. Wasn't Isaiah Quinn had a podcast? We got to figure something out. You're a busy man.
Every show I'm on is the Lance Revera show. Actually, I do a podcast on Tuesday nights, released on Wednesdays, called Broken But Glorious, and we had a show on there. It was one episode called the Lance Revera episode. It was a full, I think it was just me and. It was just all about me, apparently, from what I remember.
Well, why am I not surprised? Listen, at this point, we should just change Sportswire Radio to Lance Revera Radio. Maybe we'd have more ratings and maybe we'd have more followers. I don't know at this point, but
maybe.
At this point, we are going to sign off because we don't want to get our individual here in any further hot water, any trouble than he might be at the moment. And we certainly want to make sure we go and buy a shirt to help with the legal fund. So thank you, everybody, for watching and tuning in. And certainly we'll be back here later this evening, overnight UK time. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. Alongside me is the soon-to-be Playboy King, Lance Revera. Thank everybody for watching and listening. Good night.